Hello biology. This is going to be the last bit of notes for photosynthesis. So, today we are going to be picking up with the light-independent reactions. That is the part where carbon dioxide is used. That is going to involve this large chemical process, which is going to show in multiple steps, which is called the Calvin cycle, which is also known as the light-independent reactions, which was also known as the dark reactions. So, this is a reaction where carbon dioxide is used, so we're going to be starting there. So this cycle begins when carbon dioxide molecules enter from the atmosphere. An enzyme in the stroma of a chloroplast combines the carbon dioxide molecules with 5 carbon compounds that are already present in the organelle, producing 3 carbon compounds that continue the cycle. So, at the start, there are going to be 6 carbon dioxide molecules that enter this cycle. They are going to be combined with 6 carbon compounds. Those are going to then break into 12 3 carbon compounds, maintaining our number of carbon atoms. So other enzymes in the chloroplast convert the 3 carbon compounds into higher energy forms in the rest of the cycle using energy from ATP and high energy electrons from NADPH. So here we're going to stay at 3 carbon compounds, but there are chemical processes that are using the ATP and the NADPH from the light-dependent reactions that were produced in the electron transport chain. So, halfway through the cycle, we still have our 3 12-carbon compounds. At this point, 2 of the 12 3-carbon molecules are removed. That is effectively the 6 CO2 that went in. So, 6 carbon atoms are leaving, 6 carbon atoms went in. So these molecules become the building blocks that the plant cells use to produce sugars, lipids, amino acids, and other compounds. These sugars are going to be the building blocks of all living things. This is how all food is effectively produced via photosynthesis, taking in carbon dioxide. So the remaining 10 3-carbon molecules are converted back into 6 5-carbon molecules that combine with 6 new carbon dioxide molecules to begin the next cycle. So we're then left with 10 3-carbon molecules because 2 went away. So 10 times 3 is 30. That is the same as 6 times 5 is also 30. So we are able to rearrange this and we're back to our starting point of 6 5-carbon molecules, which can combine with 6 CO2. So this cycle is going to be running in the chloroplasts of all plants. This cycle can continue into the night because it can continue so long as there is stored ATP and NADPH. So the Calvin cycle uses 6 molecules of carbon dioxide to produce a single 6-carbon sugar molecule. Now, it doesn't just take the 6 carbon dioxides and push them all together. It has a large chemical process it has to do, but in effect, it's taking 6 carbon. So, to summarize what goes on in the light-independent reactions, also known as the Calvin cycle, energy for the reaction is supplied by ATP and NADPH. That ATP and NADPH was produced back in the light-dependent phases by the electron transport chain. The plant uses sugars produced by the Calvin cycle to meet its energy needs and to build macromolecules needed for growth and development. When other organisms eat plants, they can use the energy and raw materials stored in these compounds. 2 sets of photosynthetic reactions work together. The light-dependent reactions trap energy of sunlight in chemical form, and the light-independent reactions use that chemical energy to produce stable, high-energy sugars from carbon dioxide and water. In the process, animals, including humans, get food and an atmosphere filled with oxygen. So, we're going to go back to this diagram because, as I told you, this diagram has everything that you need to know about photosynthesis. First off, this structure, it is a chloroplast. These stacks are thylakoids. This is the stroma. So you need to know the whole reaction. So the whole reaction is H2O plus CO2 yields oxygen and sugars. So H2O plus CO2 yields O2 plus C6H12O6. Now there's two parts, light dependent and light independent. The light dependent takes place in the thylakoid. That is where we have those pigments, the chlorophylls. They are going to get struck by light, producing high energy electrons for our electron transport chain. That makes some ATP and some NADPH. In the process, hydrogen is ripped off of oxygen, producing off of the hydrogen is ripped away from water, producing oxygen gas. Over on our light independent side, carbon dioxide goes in. 6 molecules come in, 1 molecule of sugar goes out. This is powered by the ATP and NADPH from the light dependent reactions. So the reactions of photosynthesis are made possible by enzymes that function best between 0 Celsius and 35 Celsius. That's between the freezing point and about 90 degrees, not quite 90 degrees, probably like 85, 90 degrees. Temperatures above or below this range may affect those enzymes, slowing down the rate of photosynthesis or stopping it entirely. So now we're going to talk about how temperature, light, and water affect rates of photosynthesis. So high light intensity increases the rate of photosynthesis, but photosynthesis has a maximum rate. So just adding more and more and more light to a plant only makes it do photosynthesis faster to a point, because our sun's got a constant output, and beyond the output of our sun at the tropics, plants can't really use any more light. So sun plants underperform shade plants in low amounts of light, but they are more productive in high light. Shade plants outperform sun plants in low light, but they're less productive in higher amounts of light. So water is incredibly important to photosynthesis because it is one of the 2 chemical compounds that are needed. It is water and carbon dioxide. So a shortage of water can slow down or stop photosynthesis. Plants often have waxy coatings on their leaves to reduce water loss. So here we have a cross section of a leaf. A leaf is a complex tissue. So on the top, there's going to be this waxy layer, the cuticle. Then it'll have an epidermis. It has a skin, just like you have a skin. Then there are these palisade mesophyll. This is where the brunt of the photosynthesis is taking place, is in these cells. So it's going to be filled with chloroplasts. They're very close to the surface of the leaf, getting lots of sunlight to them. Then there's going to be these spongy layers. There's going to be vascular tissue, and there's going to be openings because gas is going to need to be able to be exchanged. Water and carbon dioxide and oxygen need to be able to get in and out. So it's going to have a lower epidermis. Here, this thing that looks like half a donut is a stomata. That is going to allow in and out carbon dioxide. If it's open, carbon dioxide can get in. If it's closed, no gases can be exchanged. So plants under bright, hot conditions close small openings in their leaves that emit carbon dioxide called stomata. So under hot conditions, these can be closed. This causes carbon dioxide within the leaves to fall to very low levels, slowing or stopping photosynthesis. So if it gets very hot, plants cannot do photosynthesis properly because these openings become closed to conserve water. Now, to get around this, there are some specialized chemical pathways that some plants have. There are two of these. There is C4 photosynthesis and then what we call CAM photosynthesis that we're going to talk about. So C4 plants have specialized chemical pathways that allows them to capture very low levels of carbon dioxide and pass it to the Calvin cycle. The name C4 plant comes from the fact that the first chemical compound formed in this pathway contains 4 carbon atoms. The C4 pathway requires extra energy in the form of ATP to function. That's usually okay because you only do this type of photosynthesis in places where it's very, very sunny. There are several staple crops that are CAM plants. Corn is a CAM plant. Sugarcane is a CAM plant. So C4 photosynthesis, it has a whole nother chemical step before the Calvin cycle. So it's got a lot more complicated chemistry that we're not going to talk about right now. That brings us to CAM plant. So it's my one time a year to say casaleucine acid metabolism, which is why we call that CAM, because that's much easier to say. So this is what is done by succulents and cacti. So you all know what succulents and cacti are. They're the little guys that look like that. They're either spiky or not spiky. So their stomata are closed in the day and they open at night to conserve water. So they are going to have slower growth because they're not opening their stoma during the day, but it allows them to live in a different environment. So that is going to be the end of our notes for this chapter. I am going to be posting your test to you tomorrow. Since your tests are becoming take-home affairs, I'm not doing as much review so we can continue to move on through material. Now, I'm not going to have your test due tomorrow, so if you're not ready for it tomorrow, you don't need to do it tomorrow, but I will be posting it tomorrow. I think I'm going to have it due Wednesday, but we're going to just keep moving on. So thanks, have a good day.